Alright everyone, welcome back to SwitchUp. I hope you're having a good weekend and that you have attacked some of your backlog. Now with that said, we have 5% off on your eShop credit if you want to save a bit of money on some of the best sale games this week. Just use code SwitchUp over at switchup.gg. I still need to give away the second copy of Baldo, so make sure you leave those normal comments and we shall pick someone. Also, let us know your barjans if you find any good ones that I don't mention. Cheers to all the new subscribers, it really is appreciated, and to all our Patreons and members. What are the best games on sale this week on the Nintendo Switch? Well, let's find out. Let's start off then with the most obvious picks on the sale at the moment. We have Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisp. The Blind Forest is on sale in all regions, but the Will of the Wisps seems to be only on sale in the American regions. So the Blind Forest, which is the first game, if you've not played it before, it's a beautiful Metroidvania in the Studio Ghibli art style, but it's down to £3.74. That's a 75% discount. And I think for many people, this is actually the best, or well, other than the sequel, the second best Metroidvania on Switch. Personally, I'm a bit of a Hollow Knight fanatic, but I can see why people like this. It's so streamlined, it runs well, it looks beautiful, and I guess, you know, it's on a par with Hollow Knight in terms of its overall quality. If you've already completed this one and you're in the US region, then you can pick up its sequel, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, at 80% off, down to $5.99. They're just incredibly good games. And I'm sure if there's anyone out there that's missed them, just asking anyone in the community down in the comments if it's worth picking these up, I'm sure they'd agree. It's a no-brainer really. That goes on sale until March the 15th, and as with both of them, they're the cheapest they've ever been. Then we've got Baldo and the Guardian Owls, which I'm really pleased to be able to bring you as our redemption patched up game of the week, I guess. Now, I released a video of this one the other day. They've added yet again, so it's 2 free giant DLCs of story content. Someone said to me, oh, but I'd heard that it was the base game was clunky. And yeah, there were certain mechanical core aspects that were clunky that have actually been fixed up. And in my opinion, it's a fun game. Things like the combat, it was very unfair at the start. Enemies had weird lock-on mechanics. Those have all been fixed. The actual core gameplay is really enjoyable in my opinion, and you can tell that it's a real passion project for the two indie developers. So yeah, it's got 2 now huge expansion packs that are completely free, and there is a last one on the way. If you want to check out the video, I'll pop a little time card in the corner just up there somewhere. Now this one is currently £17.49 or your regional equivalent, and you're looking at around 50 to 100 hours of gameplay. And I think regardless of what you think of it, it can't be argued that it's not a beautiful looking game. So yeah, watch the video, see what you think, but I would consider picking up Baldo before March the 22nd when that sale finishes. Then you've got Unmetal. I didn't actually realise this was on sale. I've just seen it now and added it to the list. It's absolutely brilliant. It's like a tongue-in-cheek Metal Gear Solid, but then with a load of strange, over-the-top boss fights thrown in for good measure. If you're a fan of those classic Metal Gear Solid games, I think this will really appeal to you. And while it doesn't take itself too seriously, what it does take seriously is its actual gameplay and the mechanics of it. It's just fun to play. Then they'll throw in these crazy little twists, like a plague of rats chasing you through a sewer, while I think you're transformed into a giant squirrel, if I remember correctly. Yeah. It gets a bit bonkers, but well worth it at half price, down to £8.99 until March the 30th. Then we've got what I think it's fair to call is a bit of a hidden gem on Switch. It's the Hand of Merlin. Now if you like tactical turn-based games, things like XCOM, Rabbids, any of those, then you'll click with this one quite quickly. But it's worth noting that it has a roguelite element. Now don't let that put you off. It's actually quite nice the way it's done here. It does its storytelling quite well, and you basically have these large maps that you work through and have to defeat bosses at the end of. But obviously the combat uses that lovely tactical turn-based play that I am a big fan of. It has a bit of a choose-your-own-adventure feel. You'll have different events pop up, and they'll require you to make certain choices that will either help or hinder your progress, and you use what's known as renown to level up your individual heroes. There's full-on weapon upgrades, there's different spells that you can acquire. It's just a very fun game. If you're a bit of a fantasy nerd like I am and you love tactical turn-based strategy, you'll enjoy this. It's an ideal one for a sale just because it was too expensive at launch. So for £13.49, that's 50% off until March the 30th. The Hand of Merlin is my hidden gem of the week. Alright, next up we have Figment 2, and full disclaimer, I haven't finished this one yet. I've just been playing through it as we got our code in a couple of weeks ago. And I enjoy it. I think, it carries on what made the first game special with that almost down the rabbit hole style feel to it. I will say there's a few performance issues at the moment. It's not 100%, but I just love the theme of exploring through the mind from those alternative perspectives. But it's been really nice to play the co-op mode which I think is a new thing for this one. I don't think the first one had co-op. So chucking the controller at my kid and just playing through this one slowly together has been quite cathartic. It's quite a cathartic game really, with some of the themes that it deals with about emotions and things. And it has a cracking soundtrack. So yeah, at the moment it's 15% off until about April, I think. So if you don't buy it, then maybe just one for the wish list. I've reignited my passion for Dead Cells this week by playing through the Dead Cells Return to Castlevania DLC, and you should own it. If you don't, buy it. It's always on sale. I think the base game at the moment is, there's more than enough content in just the base game. There is a free DLC you can download, but that's 40% off at the moment here in the UK. But it's always going on sale. I mean, if you've not picked it up, it's one of, if not the best roguelites on Switch. Super fast, slick combat. It does get difficult, but I don't think it means you need to necessarily be a very good player. The actual stages themselves, they're fine. Like, especially some of the earlier ones, they're not a problem. You'll breeze through them. You'll get different classes of upgrade in 3 different colors, and you kind of choose which color you want. One will be support, one will be offensive, and one's, I can't even remember. It's a very easy game to just pick up and play. I'm always talking about loading games, and I think this is a great loading game. It's one that I always crack on, play a few runs, and then forget that I actually wanted to play any other game because it's so good. So yeah, Dead Cells, if you don't own it for whatever reason, then consider adding it to your wish list or picking it up on sale at the moment at 40% off. This one could almost class as another hidden gem, couldn't it? It's Islanders, the console edition. And now that I see it on sale, I'm like, oh, I should have added this to our simulation strategy list we did the other day. At the moment, it's 20% off, taking it down to the ludicrous price of £3.59. It's developed by Grizzly Games, and they have done a really nice job of making an accessible strategy title. It's quite clever really. You get a certain amount of different things that you can place on the ground, and then by placing these strategically, so obviously next to a farm you want fields and things like that, you then get enough points to unlock more things to place within the world, and through doing that you gradually settle each of these islands. Now while you can lose, there are lose conditions if you can't go any further because your placement of things was a bit wonky. It never feels punishing, and it's never frustrating when you lose. It's just like, meh, let's go again. It has that real flow to it where you're not competing against yourself. You're just kind of chilling. And as you complete levels, it's like, oh, that's nice. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, really enjoyed this one. And for that, again, a silly price really, isn't it, for what you're getting when you compare it to some experiences you pay 10 times this amount for? Yeah, well worth it. That sale for Islanders goes on until March the 23rd. It's not intentional, but there is a bit of a strategy theme, isn't there, this week? Definitely grab up Farm Tycoon, which is 95% off, down to 89 pence, or your regional equivalent, as it's a really fun strategy game that uses a proprietary engine that they created just for this title. You have lots of different crops that you can choose from, as you'd expect. You gradually automate your farming process. Now, there are a few bugs, there are a few quirks with this one. I think there's been one patch since launch. I'd say it probably needs another one just to get everything hunky-dory. But I mean, you're not breaking the bank on the purchase. I think you'll have a lot of fun if you enjoy these styles of games. And I can't currently show this to my toddler because he is addicted to tractors, and I just can't get anything done because he's grabbing the controller, pushing the screen, just trying to get as close as he can to that lovely tractor. Oh, to be a child again. This one's 1.3 gigs. As I say, the sale for Farm Tycoon goes on until March the 26th. Now, my pickup for the week, as is always the case, I have to buy something, otherwise it's just not the same. I need to hear that little Eshop jingle sound, has been a Monsters Expedition. I didn't know anything about this one, but being incredibly deep, I liked the look of the thumbnail art. So I bought it, and it's absolutely cracking. It's like an open world puzzle game, and through completing these puzzles in the order that you choose, you unlock more of the world and you learn about the civilization that was there. But it's one of those where it does every single mechanic almost perfectly. So you pick it up, you start moving through the world, and you're like, oh man, this just feels right. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes the controls or some clunky aspect just throws you out of it, but then other times, like this, it might not even be a genre that you particularly click with, but you start playing and you're like, oh, where's this been all my life? So yeah, really simplistic to pick up and play, but surprisingly complex with some cracking music, and it's just a good game. Certainly worthy of a hidden gem spot if I hadn't already taken that up. So this can just be the second hidden gem. Now, if you're interested in that one, it's just 621 megs. It is single player only, but at 30% off, it takes it down to £10.56, and that's until March the 22nd. A really enjoyable game. Now, as always, there are loads of good games available in other regions. A few highlights, I guess, would be Graveyard Keeper, which if you like Stardew Valley with dead bodies, then this would be for you. The HD re-release of Resident Evil's on sale, down 50%, an absolute classic, nice one to own. I always push Immortals Phoenix Rising, I just think it's a great game, I think it's really underrated. But then you've also got ones like Digimon Cyber Sleuth, which is at its lowest ever price in the US regions. That's a very fun game, I'd recommend checking out a full review of that. And Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga, if you've got a kid that's demanding to play a game, that's at its cheapest ever in the US as well. So that's it for this week. As far as one game that I think you should potentially be cautious of, not necessarily avoid, but just be cautious of, it would be Cloudpunk on Switch. Now I love it on PC, it's 60 FPS, it's beautifully smooth, it's great. But on Switch, it's not a nice experience. You're looking at 30 FPS but sub most of the time, so 25, 20, feels stuttery, feels jerky, it's not the way it was meant to be played. So it's a good game, but yeah, it just feels terrible on Switch. I know that it's not the fault of the developer, I won't say any more than that, but I know it's not your fault. Sometimes, yeah, these things are out of our hands. So yeah, go buy it on another platform. That's it for this week. Thanks so much. Do save yourself 5% if you want to. I hope you're having a lovely Sunday and that your week next week just goes really well. I am feeling positive and fresh, and I didn't even mention any snacks of any variety in that video, even though half of those you could buy for less than the price of a steak bake at Greg's. For all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys. See ya!